We can help people from the very beginning in terms of, I don't know where to start. Those are my favorite because then I set them up correctly, writing their book and then publishing it. And then also people who are looking for a publisher. We're one of the good guys.
Hello there and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. So wonderful to have you with us. And before I go on today's show, I'd like to say thank you for everyone who has supported the show for over the years. In fact, reading your feedback is just wonderful. And for anybody who's new to the show, welcome. I know you're in for a treat. Now, on today's show, I have the pleasure of welcoming best-selling author and CEO of Prominence Publishing, Suzanne Doyle-Ingram. Welcome to the show, Suzanne.
Thank you for having me, Rick.
It's absolutely a pleasure to have you here. Now, you and I are going to talk about your latest best-selling book, Everybody Has a Book Except You, and the reasons why coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs should write their own book and how writing a book can lead to more visibility, credibility, and revenue. Now, before we jump into, I guess, the core of the call, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you and where you're calling in from today.
Sure, thank you. So I'm calling in from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico today. Actually, I was just explaining to someone earlier today, I'm a Canadian that works mostly with Americans, and I'm in Mexico. So I realized a while ago, when people say, I want to be able to work from home so I can work from anywhere. And I thought, I have a business where I can work from anywhere. Why am I sitting in the rain in Vancouver? So I decided to sort of take the show on the road, and I love being here. I'm only here for 3 months. And then after this, I'm going to South America. So I'm having a great time.
So tell us a little bit about home itself, where you reside more often than not.
Usually I reside in a little tiny seaside town just outside of Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, beautiful.
It's only accessible by boat, which is the biggest problem because sometimes the boats get canceled. But
course.
It's beautiful. Once you get there, it's beautiful. And there was a famous Canadian TV show called The Beachcombers that was filmed in my town. So anybody over about 40 or 50 years old, they know where it is. And so, I work from the home there. I have a home overlooking the ocean. So it's really beautiful and peaceful place to live. But it's cold and it rains a lot. So I do like to seek out sunshine and warmth whenever I can.
Oh, I bet you do. Now, I bet you it's also such a nice place to just reflect. And is it inspirational for your writing, or do you find that you can write anywhere?
Actually, I feel like I can write anywhere. I love writing on planes because there's nothing else you can do. So a good old international flight is amazing. I mean, overseas, not international to the US, because that's pretty short usually.
Yep.
It is though. I mean, but I do find that as an author, you have to be able to have fierce focus and write from anywhere.
Yeah, thank you very much for the feedback. Now, when you're not writing or traveling, do you have anything you enjoy doing? Do you have any hobbies, or do you get involved with sports or community events? What's your thing?
Oh, that's a good question. I used to volunteer at the food bank quite a bit when I was home more, but I have 3 kids and 2 of my oldest ones have moved out. And so I just have my youngest one, and he's with me here in Mexico, and he's homeschooling. He's finishing his last year of high school. So I'm busy with him. He does gymnastics. And because we're traveling in all of our spare time, we're exploring Mexico. We're learning to speak Spanish. The only friends we have here are Mexican. We just went to a show, like a play on Saturday night with our Mexican friends. And so it's been really, really lovely immersing ourselves in the community. And, we just had a huge hurricane here. And so we were involved in the cleanup efforts and donating to people who needed, clothing and I donated a lot of baby supplies and things like that.
Thank you for sharing. Now, I know that you can speak multiple languages. Now, how would that all come about? When did you realize that you have to have the gift to do such a thing? I can only imagine what that's like.
Well, it's very confusing, actually. The other day I was sitting by the pool and the man came to deliver water, and I the first thing I thought of was Japanese.
Oh, really?
Sumimasen, oh, mizu kudasai. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that is not the right country. Well, I learned French in school. In Canada, I went to a special school, so I learned French fluently. And then I lived in Japan for 3 years after I graduated from the University of Victoria, because I needed to pay back my student loans. I needed to make money, so I lived in Japan. And I loved that. That was really cool. And then my partner is European, and so we spent a lot of time in Europe, and he's also got the travel bug. So I think between the two of us, we speak 8 languages. So it's
Oh,
pretty cool.
goodness. Yeah, that's wild. Now, tell me, I know that when I'm traveling international, as much as I'd like to write the entire time, I sometimes just like to zone out watching a good movie. Do you do the same thing?
Um, yes, but my problem is right now I'm watching a show in French and a show in Japanese, and I don't know why I do that to myself. I just should be focusing on Spanish, but I do. But I don't watch a lot of TV at all.
No.
I am a huge reader, and I have to read so many books for work. Before part of my publishing company, I'm reading about 150 books a year. But my big, juicy, like total self-care indulgent thing is to read like a good old Michael Crichton book or like
Oh,
a
yes.
spy novel. I love fiction so much, but I don't have a lot of time to read it. So it's true. Like on planes, I'll say to myself, okay, I have 9 hours. I'm going to do 4 hours of work, and then I might watch a movie, but and then I like to read fiction.
So tell me, I can remember as a young child, my mum reading me books and my grandma reading me books. Do you remember the first book that they ever read to you?
Well, that's a kind of a crazy story because I have 2 older brothers, and both of them had learning disabilities. And so they were 3 years older than me and 5 years older than me.
Yep.
So when my oldest was 8 years old, my oldest brother, I was only 3, and my mom was just doing an amazing job getting special books for them and working so hard trying to teach them how to read that I accidentally learned how to read at 3 years old. And I remember being confused about it because my mom would try to stop me, and she would let me read, but behind my brother's backs. I always thought it was a shameful thing. For years, I thought it was shameful. And then I realized why. It's because she didn't want to make them feel bad. But
Oh.
my first book was called Puppies and Kittens. And I was just one of those weird kids. But I have to say, I'm no genius. I'm really good at languages and reading and writing and all that stuff, but terrible at math. So, we all have our strengths and weaknesses.
I'm with you there, absolutely, and I'm not great at math either. But tell me, I know that when we're children, we have so many good times that we go through, or the majority of us do at least. What's one childhood memory that you can recall and share with us that is really fond for you?
Oh, one in particular. Well, growing up, I lived at the beach and in a little town, not the same one I live in now, but not that far away,
Yep.
outside of Vancouver. And it was like being on vacation every day. And in the summertime, my parents were divorced, which obviously was very sad, but I saw my dad all the time. And so he kept his boat at the marina, and he would come along in his boat, and he could come as low as about 3 feet of water. And so he would just beep on his horn, and my friends and I would be about 12 or 13 years old. We'd be down at the beach, just hanging out on the sand. And then we'd see my dad's boat, and we'd swim out to the boat and hop on, and he would have like soda pop and chocolate bars. And I just thought he was like the coolest dad ever.
He is.
And it was such a beautiful way to spend time with my dad, and I realized how privileged that was, and it was lovely. It was really great.
And now this is what I love about the My Future Business Show, and I think this is what sets us apart because we go into, I guess, the lives behind the business owners, and I think that's really important for context. So know that we appreciate you sharing. Thank you very much, Suzanne. Now, tell me, when you're growing up in those formative years and you had your mum, your dad, presumably your grandparents around you, in those formative years, did you look to anybody for guidance, and did they help you become the person that you've become today?
Well, I always admired my mom because she was a single mom.
Yep.
And, back in those days, I don't think they did joint custody. Nobody I knew did that. In fact, I was the only kid of a divorced family that I knew of. And so I saw my mom work 3 jobs to provide for her kids. And I just thought, she never complained. She would do all this extra work so that we didn't go without. And
Yep.
I had so much admiration for that. And it made me realize that, the expression I like is the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yes.
She was she still is pretty amazing. And so she was one of my mentors for sure. And then I have to say, a lot of my university professors, especially, working women, I never thought, I always knew I would work. And
Yep.
I didn't think I would stay home and just bake cookies. It just wasn't for me. Of course, that's a beautiful thing
Thing
for
to do.
other
Yeah.
people to
Yep.
do. But
Yep.
I was brought up by somebody who worked, and I just assumed that's what you do, right? So I thought I would work too. So I guess, just watching how other people balance. And I looked at my friends' parents, like married people,
Yep.
thinking, okay, that looks, I like the way they communicate. Like, I want to look at this. I want to understand how this works. And I was kind of an inquisitive kid that way.
Yeah, thanks again for sharing. No, I always wonder about this because we look at the, I guess, life philosophies and processes and the way an entrepreneurs should be thinking. Especially, there's a lot of startups that listen into the show that are looking for people who have walked the path before them to get this sort of guidance. And you certainly have some experience to share. Now, tell us a little bit about what your daily routine looks like. Is there a routine, or is it just as it comes?
Oh no, I have a routine. I was saying to myself this morning, I'm a disciplined person after I went for my long, sweaty walk this morning. So I prioritize health. I think that the most important thing in life is first your health and then your family, which might sound terrible, but if you're not alive, you can't take care of your family.
No,
If you have, you put your back out, you can't even play with your kids. So
no.
it took me a long time. I remember I published a book a few years ago about self-care, and I started laughing because I'd never heard of the expression self-care. And I went, oh my gosh, is that a real thing? Like, that's hilarious, because I was not taking care of myself at all. So my daily routine, I get up before 7 a.m. 7 a.m. is a sleep in, so it's usually before 7 a.m.
Yep.
And then I have a coffee. Got to have coffee. And then I exercise. It's either a 5-kilometer walk or strength training with weights at the gym. So I work out with weights 3 times a week. And also where I live now in Mexico, first I have to walk there for 15 minutes and walk home. So I also do like about a 3K walk to the
Every
gym and
day.
back.
Yeah, so I find that this is almost typical of driven people, that they do need these routines, but also they also value relaxation time away from their businesses. Is that important for you?
100%. Absolutely. For me, it usually is something to do with the water. So swimming or getting on a boat or getting on a paddle board, which I have at home. I love the water. And I realized one day it's actually this is going to sound really weird, but it's the feeling of gliding that I love. So I also love skiing, and I like sledding and something on ice, skating,
Beautiful. Yeah.
I love that feeling. I also listen to meditation apps at night before bed, not all the time, but if I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't sleep, I'll listen to a meditation. It'll put me right back to sleep. And then for the rest of my day, after my workout, obviously I shower. And then I have a calendar that I use a time blocking technique, which I also teach my clients, my authors, because a book won't just happen. You have to plan for it to happen, So my calendar is completely blocked off with everything that I'm doing, whether it's working on my social media posts or working on my own book of the month or whatever I'm working on at the time, or working on other client stuff, teaching classes, coaching.
Busy.
Yeah, it's busy. It's busy. But I try to work less than 40 hours a week. Usually, I have to admit, I only work about 30 hours a week, maybe.
Yeah, there are some classic books around, timeless books, I guess you'd say. Think and Grow Rich would be one that comes to mind, and The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is another. Do you ever think reading those is a valuable thing for people to do when they're starting out in business?
Yes and no. I think that self-development is really important, but I think it can be distracting for people sometimes if they get too into it. With my clients, when I'm teaching people how to write a book, I call it getting stuck in the getting ready to get ready phase. Sometimes you just have to rip off the Band-Aid and you have to really dig in and start going. Right?
Yep.
So, you know what I mean by that? I mean, I think, for example, there's a book called The Miracle Morning, which is a great book, right? And I remember being interviewed on a podcast one time, and the fellow was saying to me, the first 90 minutes of every day, I do this much meditating, and I do this, basically doing the Miracle Morning.
Yep.
And I said, at the time, I had I had younger kids, and I said to him, well, that's nice if you're a man. And I thought, oh my gosh, this podcast is never going to air because I just completely put my foot in my mouth. And I said, I'm a mom. Like, I cannot ignore my children for the first 90 minutes of the day.
No.
They will be knocking on the door.
They won't let you.
Or will come into the shower with me and go, mom, mom,
yeah,
mom,
yeah,
mom.
yeah. I see it every day.
So I think, and also we tend to look at these people that write these books as so incredibly successful. Even, I can't even think of an example right now, but then we measure ourselves up against them and we go, oh my gosh, I slept in today, I didn't go to the gym, now I failed. And you've got to have grace with yourself. You have to have grace. On the mornings when I don't walk, I do try to walk after dinner is a really good time to walk. That's what all the Italians do, they take a walk after dinner. It's very good for your health and good for you. So, I don't want to come across like I'm obsessive about it, because I think that also can lead to destructive behavior where you're so hard on yourself. You got to love yourself and you got to give yourself grace.
I'm absolutely loving this feedback, as I'm sure that my future business audience is as well. Now, I think about my children and their development and what I would like to leave them in terms of, I guess, mindset, for life philosophies. What would you like to leave with your children?
Oh my gosh, how much time do you have, Rick?
It's
so
a tough one.
I like to disappoint my children, and I'll explain what that means. I don't like making life easy for my kids because I want them to be able to participate fully in life. So, like right now, it's 6:00 at night where I am. My son is at his gymnastics in Mexico in a foreign country, and he's going to walk home at 7:30 in the dark. And I think to myself, am I crazy? Everybody talks about how dangerous Mexico is, but we live in a residential neighborhood. We know a lot of the neighbors, and I've checked in with him many times, and I've checked in with my Mexican friends, and they're like, no, it's totally fine, Suzanne, don't worry about it. And my son feels really fine with it too. And so I also have done things like when my daughter got a part in a play, she was so excited. She was about 8 years old. She sat down at the kitchen table with her highlighter and her script, and she was just getting ready to highlight all of her lines. And she opened up the book and she found her line, and her first line, and she highlighted it. And then she went through the whole rest of the script and there were no other lines. And she sat there and cried and cried. And I thought, if I want her to stop crying, I can phone that director and I can say, who do you think you are, mister? My daughter is a star and she deserves to have more lines in the play and that, right? But I said to her, oh, that's awful. That must feel so disappointing. I wonder what's up with that. She's like, I don't know, but I thought I was going to have more speaking things. And I was like, oh no, that's really horrible. So I said, well, if you want, maybe we could go talk to him and just see if there's any way that you might be able to have some more lines. And so I want to coach my kids through like getting I don't want to say getting their way, coach my kids through asking for what they want, but not making it all happen for them. I don't want to hand my kids their lives on a silver platter. It actually drives me nuts when people do that. Yeah. I don't sell my kids raffle tickets for them when they have to sell raffle tickets for school. No, get on your bike and go door to door and sell raffle tickets. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Independent.
And just, I can't fight their battles for them. And I'm sure many people think that that's horrible parenting. I told my kids the other day, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. We just make it up. We don't know. And as it turned out, when my daughter did meet with the director and she said, I was really hoping to say more things in the play, in her little kid way. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. That was just a misunderstanding. Of course, we've got all these other lines for you. So
there you go.
Instead, you got to have your kids speak up and ask for what they want, because I always say to my kids, it's amazing how many yeses you can have, but if you never ask for what you want, it's always going to be a no.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Sage advice. Now, I wonder, given how many books you read, do you ever give yourself time for audiobooks? Are they a thing for you?
I actually never listen to audiobooks. No. I don't know why. I feel like the only sort of like idle time I would have would be on my walks. And I actually don't really like to listen to anything on my walks. This morning I was listening to the birds and I was thinking my own thoughts.
It's
But
it's funny, there's this trend right now, and my kids alerted it to me, and I was just astounded by it. Is that some influencers are walking around with no headphones, no phones, and making it sound as if they've created this new movement. Hang on, I don't know. There was a time when we grew up where we didn't have these devices, and that was normal.
yes, exactly. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah, look at me.
Now, I saw you speaking on stage. For me, public speaking, I have to say I would try to embrace it, but I reckon my fear would take over. How was it for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love it because I love to share with the audience. If it's an audience of, women entrepreneurs, I'm able to say, here's how you can write a book, or depending on the audience, what they're looking for, what the talk is about, how to write a book or how to get published or all those sorts of things, what to do with your book.
Yep.
I just feel like I'm so lucky that this book stuff comes easy to me because a lot of other things don't. And so it's my responsibility to share what I know so that other people don't have to struggle. And, I see a lot of people getting ripped off in this industry. And
oh, yeah.
So I do get nervous for sure. I do get nervous, but I know my stuff. I can speak off the top of my head. I can do it in my sleep. I know my stuff. So I know that I'm going to just come from a heart-centered place and show up and share with my audience so that they can, if it can help them in any way, then I'm happy to do that.
There's certainly a lot of questions I have to ask you about the work that you are doing, and one of them would be when you do a physical book, what do you think about like PDF versions or flipbook digital versions? Are they a thing, or are you all about the hardback or the softbacks?
That's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that. Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
It depends on the situation. I think everybody needs a paperback and a Kindle for sure. Sometimes people want the information right away, so they want to get that Kindle in their hands right, instantaneously.
Yep.
And then the paperback is really, really great. Most of the authors I work with are, business owners and business professionals that want to be able to kind of use it like a business card, like a leave behind.
Yep.
Architects and realtors and mortgage brokers and those people say, here's a copy of my book, and coaches too. So paperback for sure. But the PDF, 99% of the time, I do not agree that you should say, I'd like to give you a copy of my book and give them a PDF, because I think it's not valued. It just sits and hides on someone's C drive on their computer. They don't value it. They don't think of it whereas if they get, a paperback book,
a tangible
in the mail,
book.
Hand it to them. Yeah, it's tangible. This is like a $20 gift they just gave me,
Yeah.
So I also think that nowadays somebody could rip you off and they could print that book. So we don't want that either, right? So I shock my authors all the time because they say, oh yeah, I'm going to give my book to 25 of my top clients. And I say, okay, wait a second. Are you talking about mailing them a copy, or are you talking about emailing them the PDF? And they kind of go, I'm like, do not email them the PDF. Do not. They will not value it. How many PDFs do you have on your computer? You sit there, you're going to get around to one day. But if it was a book on the table right in front of you, then you would value it. So for flip books, I think they're really cool. We actually give them to our clients to preview what their book's going to look like before it goes live.
Yep.
It depends, I think if you were a realtor and you wanted your book on your website, then go right ahead and put the flip book on there. But, you want to be able to capture their email address, right? So you can follow up with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's print on demand, and I wonder, that's really changed the world. But I always think about, when I ask that question, you've got self-publishing and going through a traditional publisher. Which one do you prefer to promote?
Well, our company, we do sort of in between, like hybrid publishing. So here's the thing. I say to people, if you want to get traditionally published, I totally understand, because it comes with a big, credibility, if you will, right? So
Mm-hmm.
HarperCollins published me or whatever, right?
Yep.
However, if you don't have 1 million followers, it's going to be on social media, it's going to be very difficult because they want a sure thing. And I have to break some hearts sometimes because a lot of people think their book is really, the next big thing, but they literally have 200 followers on social media. And I'm sorry, but traditional publisher won't touch you. It doesn't matter if it's the best book that has ever graced this earth. They won't touch you.
They won't touch
now,
you.
On the other side of the coin, self-publishing is amazing. I love it, but it has to be done professionally. I've seen some people that don't want to spend any money whatsoever on professional editing, cover design, and typesetting, and their book looks absolutely terrible. They literally have no page numbers, no table of contents, and it can ruin your reputation.
It can be a bit trashy, can't it?
Yeah, it just looks so bad. And especially if you have a high profile brand, your website looks beautiful and you look really professional, and then you come up with this book and it's like, oh honey, like why didn't you get some help? So that's why we're kind of like a middleman where we help guide people to do it professionally and properly. And I always say my job is to make the authors look good. So I can have a little tough love with them and say, don't do that, do this instead, and it'll make you look good.
Now, I'm a big software advocate, and I see a lot of AI-driven software out there that claims to be able to write books at a click of a button using AI. Tell me your thoughts on this.
Oh my gosh, I'm starting to I'm sweating. So I think AI is a very great tool in many, many ways. And sometimes I'll use it myself if I think like, oh my gosh, I got to do a LinkedIn post today. Hey, Chat GPT, like, give me 3 things an author needs to do while they're writing their book or something like that. And just give me the little ideas and then I write it myself. But you cannot use AI to write a good book if you want your name on it and you want it to represent you. Because when I'm teaching business people how to write a book, we really go deeply before they even write their outline. We go deeply into who you're writing it for. What do you want this book to do for you? Mm-hmm. What are some of the ways that you have helped people transform as a result of working with you? And all these really personal things that Chat GPT cannot
just can't do it.
You. No.
Yeah.
If you want a generic book about, how to wash your dog and then just throw that on Amazon, that's fine. But I'm not about selling volume books. I'm about having the book sell you and getting more clients as a result of a book. So I'm probably not the right person to ask for that. There's lots of other people that'll tell you.
Oh no, you're perfect to ask for it. Thank you.
But
no, I think it's absolutely relevant that you answered that question. I appreciate that you did. Now, I think it's a great segue into my next question, because I know one thing that ChatGPT and the likes cannot do and will never be able to do is tell your true, authentic story. How important is storytelling in the books that you create?
Very, very important. But I do believe it has to relate to your book topic. So the way I teach people how to write books is once we do the outline, but I also have them seed in about themselves, seed in little points of credibility, points of vulnerability, inspirational stories stories about their clients that they've worked with and the results their clients have had and things like that. And definitely telling your authentic story, but the book can't be all about you. No. So I hate to break it to you, but the book can't be all about you, because when you think about the reader journey, I teach a lot about what's in it for the reader. This person that you've never met is deciding when they look at your book if they're going to give you 5 to 10 hours of their time. Right? Yep. Everybody's time is so precious. They better get something out of your book. I mean, unless you're, if you're Oprah Winfrey, you're writing a book about yourself. That's a celebrity type of autobiography. That's different. But like, no offense, if you're, Susie Brown from Chicago and you're an architect, the book can't be all about you. It really has to be about the clients that you work with. And of course, I'm just talking about the way that I teach people how to write books. Yep. And I don't teach fiction. And these are really specific books that business people can use as a lead generation tool for their business. But your authentic story has to be in there. Your story matters, and people want to do business with you because they like you. And so when you think about how people find you, I always think about your business as a highway with on-ramps, right? And so You being on a podcast interview is an on-ramp. You writing a book is an on-ramp. What you posted on LinkedIn today is an on-ramp. That's how they find you. And so when they read your book, they feel like they know you. We want them to feel like they know you and they like you and they trust you. We say the know, like, trust factor. Some people might not resonate with you, and that's perfect because they're not going to waste your time because they're going to go away,
Self-selection.
Exactly. So exactly the right fit people will be drawn to you, and they'll say, what else does this person have that I might listen to her on a podcast, or she has a course I can take, or maybe I can book a strategy call with her, and maybe I want her to sell my house or groom my dog or give me coaching on
whatever it might
how to
be
a better whatever.
See, it makes me think about, I know given your approach to book writing, I wonder if it's ever valid for new authors that are working with you to actually go ahead and create an audiobook version or a course or something else that's complementary to that book, that supplements what they've done with their book and all the effort that they make. Is that a valid thing?
Absolutely. Yes. I always say, okay, let's just focus on the book first.
Yep.
Because if we say, we're going to do a workshop, or you can do a course, and you can do this and that, then a webinar, it's too much. So we focus on the book first, and then you can actually, most of the time, use the outline for your book as the outline for your course, your online course.
Yep.
And then in your book, here's $1 million tip. In your book, have a link to a landing page, that is, your website.com/book, a landing page where they can get more information, but they opt in. So you build your mailing list. Usually when someone buys a book, you can never follow up with them because you don't know who they are, right?
Yep.
People often think that Amazon will give you your list of buyers. That is absolutely not true. You do not know who buys your book on Amazon. So having, worksheets they can download, or having like a bonus chapter, or like you said, having a little mini video course that goes with the book.
Yep.
Don't spend another year doing that. Literally do it in a weekend, get it done.
Get it out there.
Don't freak out over it. But having someone opt in to get more from you is just absolutely fantastic way to do things.
So non-fiction authors seem to have this expiry date on their book. How important is it for authors to be updating their books as things change?
That's a good point. What I love about print on demand is two things. One is you can change your book anytime, re-upload it. It'll be live on Amazon within 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
That's if you don't use a traditional publisher. If you use someone like me or someone like me, or do it yourself, right? So there's that. But also, I always want to make sure that my authors don't have, like when I said, directs people to a landing page that you control. Don't have dead links in there. Don't have links that might just expire one day. And you can always do an updated version every couple of years. But also, what I love about print on demand is you don't have to have a warehouse full of 1,000 books.
Yes.
That is one of my biggest pet peeves. Makes me so mad when someone says, my publisher is printing 1,000 books for me. And I go, your publisher is actually a printing company. Run away. It makes me so mad. There's no reason to. I have so many people that come to me that say, can you help me sell 900 books that have been sitting in my garage for 6 years? And it's heartbreaking, Rick, because they spend too much money, and I don't like people to spend money that they don't have to spend. So with your print on demand book, you can just have 20 or 50 on demand, right? Just what you need.
Do you think that business owners should make it standard practice to actually provide or send actually physically mail a copy of their books to their customers?
Yes and no, but here's what I like to do. Here's what I recommend. I'm giving you all my $1 million ideas today.
Oh, I know you are. I love it.
What I suggest that people do is email their clients and say, hey, Sally, I'm excited to tell you that I just wrote a book and I would love to send you a copy. As you know, one of the ways that I build my business is through referrals. So if you know anyone that might benefit from my services, please pass the book on to them.
Love it.
And then Sally has to reply to the email. You have to get the person to engage with you and say, Heck yes, I would love that. And then you say, oh, what's your current mailing address? Da, da, da. You go back and forth, back and forth. Then you're top of mind with them. You might not have worked with Sally for a while, right? She might be an old client. And then she might also say, by the way, I was thinking of contacting you because I need my back cracked, or, whatever your
whatever it is.
And you can really waste a lot of money just willy-nilly. Someone gets a book in the mail, all of a sudden they're like, what is this? And it catches them off guard.
Bit random.
Really want to have that engagement with them before you start.
So, we've just touched on the money that's involved in these things, but there's also the free route. When is there a time for free? If it's traditionally has been a paid book.
Pardon me?
Like if you were traditionally selling your book that you've created, is there ever a time that you would give it away? Like just as per the example I've just talked about.
Yes, absolutely. I wasn't sure where you were going there.
No.
Thank you. So yes, giving away your book for free is a great idea to past clients. People get caught up in the idea of, I'm going to sell 1 million books. I'm going to make $1 gazillion. I got to sell books, But if you understand what your average customer value is, like if you're a coach that sells a $3,000 package, coaching package, and one new client is worth $3,000 to you, why wouldn't you just try to get one new client with your book rather than try to sell books all day and suddenly have a new job, right? So yes, and I had a client once. She wrote a book on a college admissions guide on how to get teenagers, into college.
Yep.
And so she ran a Facebook ad just in her area, just for targeting parents of teenagers, saying, would you like a free copy of my book? And then they said yes. And then they went to a landing page. They had to put in their name, their mailing address, and their phone number. And then she would phone them and she would say, thank you, Dawn. I'd love to give you a copy of my book. Matter of fact, I'm going to be in your area on Tuesday afternoon. Can I drop the book off? Well, she freaked out and had to turn it off because she got too many leads.
Oh.
So, when you think of what her consulting fees are, forget about trying to sell books and just give the book away. So it depends on the person.
Yep.
But I think that sometimes I shock people because their whole life they've dreamed about writing a book, and they've dreamed about being on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and they've dreamed about books like Eat, Pray, Love, and they think it's going to change the world and they're going to sell 1 million books. And I flip it around and I go, but what if you didn't?
But what if you didn't? There you go. There's reality.
What if there's another way? What if you could make, I think it was Mike Michalowicz that said, I made $1 million with my book, and only 10,000 of that came from book sales.
The books, yeah. I love it. Great feedback. There is so much gold in this call. Thank you very much for sharing. I have a few more questions for you. I wonder about sizes of books. Is there a preferred size that fits better than others?
Yes, 6x9, 6 inches by 9 inches, the industry standard. And sometimes people want to get cute and they want to do let me just rephrase that. If you're doing a workbook, sometimes an 8.5 by 11 or 8 by 10 is a good idea, right?
Yep.
I do not recommend spiral bound. Everybody thinks it's great. So, but my reader wants to lay the book flat. I'm like, no. But they don't want to feel like they're in 1982. Okay.
Or at school.
Yeah. So, and Amazon won't do print on demand for spiral bound books. So there's a problem with that too. So through KDP anyways.
Yep.
But I go with 6x9 because sometimes what happens too is you'll have a distribution deal that comes along later, and they're like, "Oh, we can't distribute your book because it's a weird size."
Yeah.
So, we do 7x10 if it's, I just did a book the other day. It was 338 pages, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, we probably should have made it a 7x10."
Just for font size. I love this. I often, I'm not sure where I heard this from, Suzanne, but somewhere along the line, I heard that 80% of our marketing dollar is spent in the headline. How important is the title of your book?
Oh, it's really important. Again, it can't be cutesy wootsy. Like you can't say something like ring a dingle to the tune. And then it's like, what is that about?
What's that for?
So my newest book is called Everybody Has a Book Except You. And I know it's really cheeky. So I just kind of actually cringe every time I say it because I'm like, oh, is that mean?
No, it got me. I'm thinking, oh.
Pardon me?
Yeah. It absolutely got me, and that's what sort of inspired me to ask that question. And what is the creative process that you would take a client through who's struggling to come up with the title? Or do they have to
Well,
do it themselves?
it goes back to who their ideal reader is. What are
Right.
they looking for? What are the things that go through their mind? I have a technique I use where I can't give this one away to you. It's only for my
No,
clients, but we
fair
go on
enough.
Amazon and we research certain other things. There's work that goes into it for sure. And sometimes, it doesn't come from the author, because the author is really thinking from the author point of view, and it's very difficult for them to think from the reader's point of view, So the title doesn't have to come first. As a matter of fact, when people come to me and they say, I've been thinking about writing a book for 10 years and I haven't started yet, but I know the title, I think, oh dear, that's not good. Because it's just this sort of fantasy that they've had about their title, and it's really not what the market is looking for. And Amazon is a search engine. It is a search engine. So you have your title and you have your subtitle, and if you can put one or two of your keywords into the title or subtitle, you're going to get found more often. You're going to get more eyeballs on your book. That's just the way it is. So if you call it something like the electricity effect, do's and don'ts of this and that, like, no one's ever going to find
You're
your
not
book.
sure about that one. I wonder, we have lots of people in different industries tuning into the My Future Business show. Do you think a book would fit into any industry?
Yes, I do. I've racked my brain for the last 13 years to think of an industry that it wouldn't work for. I think even a funeral home owner would be lovely for them to have a book to give to people who've suddenly lost a loved one and don't know what to do next. That would be a great book. I've had chiropractors, dog trainers. I even once had a shaman. Just anybody could write a book. Although I don't work with people who are, hateful or awful. I'm
No, of
not going
course
to
not.
write a book, but
No, not doing that. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. Again, this is a golden call, one of the best that we've had in a long time. Now, I notice that you offer some free training. Where can people find that?
Well, if they want to learn how to write a book, they can go to prominencepublishing.com/free,
Yep,
FREE, and
yep.
that is how they can find a free training that I have on there. But people are welcome to book a strategy call with me and talk about their ideas and see how we can help them. We can help people from the very beginning in terms of, I don't know where to start. Those are my favorite, because then I set them up correctly, writing their book and then publishing it. And then also people who are looking for a publisher. We're one of the good guys. Our prices are really reasonable. We're not the $85,000 people. We're not even the $20,000 people. So we're definitely one of the good guys. So you can contact me
There you
through my
go.
website. I'm actually lucky because my name, Suzanne Doyle-Ingram, is one of a kind. You can find me anywhere.
Oh, yeah, of course you can. No, I wonder, given how many people you've served and you've basically transformed their businesses and their lives in many respects, how does it make you feel? How
Oh,
satisfying, how good is it to see somebody actually publish that book and get it out into the world?
well, I literally have tears in my eyes right now. It makes me feel amazing. And I, I actually sometimes still a little bit suffer from imposter syndrome, because I think maybe it's just luck. But then I go, no, I've helped 1,000
Volumes,
people. Like,
yes, you
it's
have.
not luck. I know what I'm doing, Um, but I love sometimes even just getting someone from idea to publish book, and seeing the joy that they have, just like holding their book going, I can't believe I did this. That's one thing. But then what comes after is also so fulfilling. Like, we had this woman named Joni Higgs. She wrote a book on how to do meditation. And it was tough helping her through her book, because she kept coming up with, yeah, but
Yeah,
Deepak
but
Chopra just wrote a book on that, and now no one's going to want to buy my book. And I was like, don't worry about it. Like, there's an audience out there. But we just had someone come to Prominence Publishing a little while ago asking how to buy bulk books, because this book changed his life. He learned how to meditate and he wanted to buy books and give them away to people. Things like that. I've had
yeah,
people who literally, quit their day job and have gone on to speaking and creating courses, and it makes me so happy that I can do this. So happy. The key is that you got to do the work.
you got to do the
It's
work.
not just fairies falling from the sky and throwing money at you. There is
No,
some hard work, but I call it the
absolutely.
juicy stuff. I'm like, after
The
the book comes
juicy.
out, the juicy stuff happens.
Well, look, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This has been a golden call. If you're on this call today and you want to learn more about Prominence Publishing and all of the work that there is and the training, the coaching and everything else and the onboarding process that you'll go through, you can reach out to Suzanne and her wonderful team at Prominence Publishing. I'll be making sure that that link is available below this call. And with that being said, Suzanne, thank you so very much for joining me on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you so much for having me.